Hi, Shay. Today we are going to be continuing our journey through this course, and so I'm just post this from date delayed only because apparently I forgot to hit the record button yesterday, and I have to start from the beginning again. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Okay, so the goal of this lesson is just gonna be to understand the present continuous case, and the lesson after we're just gonna go the past tense and then the simple past continuous tense. So obviously the present continuous depends on which language and even which dialect of that specific language of we're looking at. So let's start with the first one. The first one is for you to understand what the idea is. So the basic idea of the present continuous is to add the t and the un parts together. Oh, and basically the un part is the copula of to be, which in the animate, so like continuing to go forward, kind of just like an animate state of being there, I guess. So that's how you form the present continuous. I'll explain why I put the apostrophe later. And I can start with the first apostrophe t is that it can, and the apostrophe to is with apostrophe do. The apostrophe do is the because it can, like, the consonant can change. Like, for example, you see down at the bottom with the hold up, let me see if we can turn on the pointer. Okay, so see here that instead of on chun, instead of it being on tung, it became mat with the auto stop here, matjung, right? So that's basically how it is. So in Iejima, that's you can use either way, like, but oftentimes, not oftentimes, but sometimes, well, the default is ti un. The the dung is more easier to say sometimes. For example, instead of saying ni dung, it's more easy to say just ni dung, like that. So that's one way. So, and then this is also ends up being one way it also uh exists in the Nachijin dialect. Just that's one way you can form it. Oh, do you notice that the apostrophe team dips in certain dialects? So, for example, in the Iejima, we have the is being or becoming natung. Instead of that, okay, we have natung. So natung. So we basically have the two differences here that are clearly obvious. I'll explain a little more later. And then you have, say, nudung, which obviously is not a tu, but modifies it. Another way you can create the present continuous is to have the this is specifically just for a few dialects of Kunigami, including Nachijin, is to add the verb atun at the end, which walk, but unlike in Okinawan and many other languages, it can also figuratively mean to go forward. So this is just a Kunigami thing, not to be used in like Okinawan. Like if you say this, it just literally means to just to continue to walk, to just continue going forward. Anyways, we have the verb. We'll continue with the So for example, with the action example, we have okay, so I should explain what these square brackets are. Multiplication sounds. So mean we start low, go high, we just continue, and then at the true like we just put them at the very bottom. That's kind of what I'm trying to demonstrate here. You don't have to put. I mean, not you don't usually put this, but I just added this for your reference for those who are more interested in sounds. So this would just be pronounced to work would just be pronounced patara chung chung, yeah, patara chung, like that kind of thing. And then to continue working, we have. Sorry, I'm just a little tired today. This late at night. Bad. Anyways, to continue working, we have patarachi and we have chung. So when we continue up, we have patara, but then sorry, if we combine the chi and the a becomes the cha here. So instead don't say atarachi ajun, that's very hard. You just say patarachajun. So that's kind of how it works, like continue working, which I am. Yay. And then we have for the Iheya dialect was used in the previous lesson's story. So, for example, we have the so for example, we use the word to drink, we have nunun, which you can add the adjun after converting it to the apostrophe, which I sometimes write it as same thing, like asterisk parenthesis C parenthesis close T. That's kind of how I sometimes write it. I so that is so, but in this case, the NT kind of thing combination just ends up becoming an N in the Iheya dialect. So we have to drink nunung becomes nune achung. Or other way we can this PC1 represents a present continuous. Another way you can do it present continuous too, and you can instead convert this but on. So you have once you have your form set up, so ne if ne technically, but yeah, nune this form you can also instead say nunon instead of nune every single time. So and finally Okinawan we basically, it's a little more complicated from the basic un or in form. We convert it to the T form, which then converts into the form. So I similar to T, but we use T here. Pretty similar thing. Or another way you can think of it is the last in the last little slide had the tone, but instead we use but instead of just tone. That's one another way. Just on here for me. Also fine, I guess for specifically. For example, in Iheya, you have Natoruba, you have Naton, which is the modified, but it just cannot modify further. So yeah, Naton, which noun is used. It comes from the verb like nine to be to become, yeah. So okay, so whenever I use the apostrophe, I'll like with here, you have a apostrophe v about it's basically glottal and or semi-vowel plus vowel, just basically some sort of modified vowel, usually with a glottal or a semi-vowel or both. So apostrophe, you could you just use oo or woo or woo kind of thing, like that kind of woo, like that kind of thing. It's kind of doesn't matter too much. Personally, I try to use double glossal woo, but yeah, like Ti-un, like Ti-un, like that kind of thing, like Ti-un, like if I'm trying to say this. Uh, so and then this T I just said earlier, basically the same thing, apostrophe T with the asterisk parenthesis C parenthesis close T, and that's because, as I've said earlier, can the T it's usually T, especially in Okinawan, but it can be modified for consonant harmony. Okay. Uh, But again, once I said, not all are not things. So, example earlier, I'm just going to say a new example. For example, you have the word nun, which technically, if you remove the part, the part, but the apostrophe T form of n is basically n. So you basically end up with something like nun. However, the n form nt, asterisk nt, or just the t from n is just simply j. So you have she Zhong. So Zhu is even within dialect, you saw earlier with this and right? And then you even have Iheya's Natong, so yeah. So okay, okay. So here's the same different trick districts are outlined in this red. Using Google Map images where they are. We have Dana and we have Yonamine. I'm just gonna annotate this using a Y and J here for some of these. And then, for example, you might have the same exact sentence, but in the Nachijin dialect, basically, it's kind of useless to, not completely useless, but kind of unnecessary to use the present continuous a lot. And so I'm probably gonna skip that. For example, you can just simply use the default dictionary form you meet in both in various areas. Although due to an influence of Japanese and or Okinawan or both, I'm not exactly sure, but I have heard in recent times that, especially maybe late 20th to modern 21st, that people do say you don't here instead of you mean, effectively using the apostrophe T form. So yeah, despite that though, the base form should be the same. So yeah. So I'm gonna skip Iejima because I don't have really enough time to cover the present continuous. I'll have the one yeah and Okinawan, right? Okay. So let's start one by one. So I'm just gonna write PC1. Remember that's with the achun ending. So so yeah, is it a achun? Then you have the piece present continuous two, which is just simply just adding the own instead of having to add the achun every single time. For type 1 verbs, for these type categories don't matter. It's just one way I personally categorize them, so it doesn't matter too much. You don't have to memorize that part. Uh, but if you have nun tun endings, then basically you have it just ends up being an a form, the on form. The consonant remains the same, and the H or Z, whatever starts first. Then you keep that, and then of course subtract the or in if I think this is just, and then yeah. So basically, you add an A and yeah, no, O. That's it. Not too hard. Type two is pretty much harder. It's the fun verbs, but the F always becomes an H, so it becomes he or hon. And then if there's a Jin from that, then there's it becomes za for present continuous one. Or usually you might as well just not memorize the sorry, present continuous one form. Anyways, so use he. What was it? For example, to go out, have it applied, but it's it's unja fung. So unja e atjung, right? And then you have unja sorry, unja or unja hong, right? He atjung or unja hong. Okay, so that's example of type two with the just probably just the word to do. You have fung for which means to do in the Iheya dialect, but it becomes he atong or hon. Both are okay, acceptable. And the last type is you have a different vowel, or it's just un at the very yeah un at the very end. You can basically you can basically just use I think un is probably you just use a or you just use jong. So yeah, that's that. And then for Okinawan, it's a lot more complicated. You either have you have a lot of consonant ones, which have become the ones that use lip. Oh, wait. My bad. Ignore that. It's supposed to just ignore the B. That's supposed to be in type 2. So if it's with the lips, so or a b sound, yeah, ignore this B. This way, like, and ignore this. I'm just gonna put this highlighter here so that you guys can ignore that. More you have don't or don't because the kind of are interchangeable in certain ways in dialects and whatnot. And then you have the anjun, injun, or pretty much verb with which is usually just tong. That's because ch, d, and t are all basically kind of similar to t. It's why it's I use the letter T for that. And then there's a lot of irregulars. For example, if it's like something, if it's a something with plus to do and not like combined, like it's like separate or just a word to do, then the present continuous is just son, and then chun, son, and then see, but the Japanese equivalent is something tsu. Then you end up having zhong with a glottal shows up at the very beginning. Like, zhong, machong is zhong instead of just machong. Okay? So, okay, now that I've covered everything, I'm just gonna cover all your homework. Just so that people who are rewatching this on YouTube, who are technically in my class, that I forgot to upload that it's just I'm just gonna restate this again. Just create your own diagram or graphic to better understand the present continuous case with visuals and information being 3% of 70% as follows. And the quiz I'm going to put out the beginning of class next week is just going to be cross out the ending and then just correct it. It will specific instruction like convert it to present continuous, change it back to the base form, etc., etc. Actually, I might not do present, but just do continuous only, or maybe just yeah, that's kind of about it. It's gonna be 18 minutes, 25 questions, times two being either Kunigami or Okinawan. And the recommended pace is just 2.5 seconds per hiragana, or 9 and plus an additional 9.1 seconds for thinking time. So you should be able to finish this as long as you've studied decently. And about it. I guess thank